Hey everyone, thanks for joining me today. Welcome to the Business Anywhere channel. In this video, we're going to discuss an increasingly important issue. It's really gotten to be a big deal in the past, let's say, year or so. It's basically the banks have increased their KYC requirements for account opening and maintenance in the US. KYC stands for Know Your Customer. And you may have noticed banks in the US that are now requesting more and more updated information about residency information. Now, in my opinion, this is a response to the, let's call it the remote work phenomenon. Over the past several years, we've discussed this in earlier videos, but over the past several years, really, in my opinion, since the advent of Skype, remote work has really gotten a lot of traction, and people have more and more increasingly been able to work remotely due to various technologies available to them. But during COVID, this really escalated exponentially because of a lot of requirements that people could not come into the office. And so even big companies were sending employees home to work remotely. Well, when that happened, a lot of people went home and said, well, I'll work remotely, or they'll freelance and operate their business through an LLC or something like that. And they started working remotely. Well, a lot of people said, if I can work remotely, why do I work here? Maybe they lived in a high cost of living area, like San Francisco Bay Area or San Diego or New York or Chicago or something like that, where the cost of living was really high. And they said, if I can work remotely, why don't I just work remotely from something more interesting? Maybe go live on the beach in Mexico, or maybe go live in some ski resort town in the winter and go snowboarding all winter. And so when that happened, a lot of people started being much more or way more location independent. And that presented some challenges for employers. And ultimately, at the regulatory level, a lot of our regulators did not really like that, because without having to go too deep into conspiracy theories here, but basically, regulators don't like it when you're too mobile, because then they have less control over, you. They have less control over you, the taxes you pay, and kind of keeping you location bound. And so since COVID, we've seen an increase in regulations at the banking level. And what they're doing is increasing the regulations that banks have to collect more and more information on us for where we live. And you can imagine if you were maybe a freelancer prior to COVID, you were working maybe a little bit on-site, a little bit off-site. During COVID, they said, work remotely. And now you're operating through your own business, through an LLC, for example. And now you just say, well, forget it. I'm going to be fully location independent. Maybe go nomadic, take advantage of this digital nomad movement, and you're living and working in different places. Well, now the banks are giving you a hard time. They're giving all of us a hard time about this, because they're coming back to us and saying, where do you live? We need more information about where you go to sleep at night. And if you are of this nomadic type lifestyle, you may not even have a place like a regular home. You may live in maybe Airbnbs a month or two at a time, and then you move to another country or another city or another state or something like that. And so because of this increased or enhanced regulations at the banking level, they're forcing you to provide information about where you actually live. So I personally have dealt with this recently. I've had a lot of clients over the past couple of months in my tax consulting business where we've had to deal with this issue. And basically, you can use a virtual mailbox. Like with Business Anywhere, we offer a virtual mailbox for your mailing address in several different locations around the US. But in many cases, a lot of your banks and financial institutions are not accepting virtual mailbox locations for your physical address. And that basically is going to, I don't know how else to put this, but that basically is going to have to come down to either your lifestyle choice of whether you want to live in one place and claim that one place as your primary home or your only home, or are you willing to use maybe a friend's address, a family member's physical address, or maybe have a temporary place that you use for a short period of time and use that as a physical address. But you're going to have to find a solution to that, because using a virtual mailbox service, even with us, Business Anywhere, or any of your other virtual mailbox providers, when you work with a virtual mailbox provider, your address is at a commercial address. We are what's called a commercial mail receiving agent, which means we have to have locations in commercial properties. We can't have virtual mailbox addresses in apartment buildings or homes or that sort of thing. They're not residential addresses. And so when you go to a bank and they say, what is your address? And you give them a virtual mailbox address, and they're going to pull it up and see, well, this is a commercial address. We need your primary residential address. And this is becoming a big factor nowadays. So ultimately, I just want to make you guys aware of this, but you're going to have to kind of make a choice. Are you going to continue to be nomadic? If you're going to continue to be nomadic, you are going to have to pick an address, a physical residential address that you use for that purpose, or you're going to have to choose to not be nomadic. At this point, the way the regulations are, the banks are kind of the bottleneck in this situation. The banks are forcing you into this. So just think about it, what your choice is, whether you want to be nomadic or not. And if you do want to continue to be nomadic, or a lot of people, we have a lot of clients that maybe they aren't even nomadic, but they really highly value their privacy and they don't want to give away their home address where they actually go to sleep at night. And so they use their virtual mailbox address for everything. Their bank statements, their credit card statements, so their bills, cell phone bills, everything. They use it literally for everything because for privacy reasons, they don't want their home address in public record. And in that case, you're just going to have to get comfortable using someone else's, a family member's or a friend's address or something. I understand it's a little bit gray area, but you as an individual kind of have to make the choice at this point. Do you want to be nomadic or not? And it's kind of a binary answer here. If you're not going to be nomadic and you are comfortable using your actual home address, use it. If you want to be nomadic or you're not comfortable with using your home address in public record, you're going to have to get comfortable with using some other physical address. So I hope that helps for those of you that are either already nomadic or kind of in that process to become nomadic. If you are looking for a virtual mailbox solution, we do offer a virtual mailbox product. We have a couple of dozen addresses across the US in a bunch of different states. You can find us at businessanywhere.io. We operate our business a little bit differently in that we do not charge you for additional pieces of mail or additional scans, and we don't charge you extra for your storage fees for mail. Basically, the only difference in our package options is how many people or businesses, we call them recipients, how many people are receiving mail into that mailbox, and that's the only difference in the package. So if you're looking for that sort of thing, you can find us at businessanywhere.io. Thanks.